I had a casual meeting with Dr. Edward Teller while working at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico. He referred me, after several years, to a job out in the New Mexico desert, a place known as S4 near Area 51, where many top-secret government projects had their home base, essentially. Edward Teller is the director of the program, and I think someone approved by Ed Teller, someone suggested by him, I think that carries enough weight in itself. I had a fascination with small jet engines. I had built and installed a jet engine in a little Honda Civic, a small car. It made the front page in the local Los Alamos paper, The Monitor. Coincidentally, and in fact on the back of that front page, Ed Teller was giving a lecture on SDI, and I believe that was June 1982 at Los Alamos. As I was walking up to the lecture hall, I wanted to hear what Ed Teller had to say. As I was walking up to the lecture hall, I got there relatively early, thinking there would be a fairly large turnout, and as it turned out, there wasn't. I got there about an hour and a half early, and Ed Teller is sitting outside, and he had just bought a paper out of the paper machine, and he was reading the front page, and I thought, well, what an opportunity to introduce myself. I can say, well, I'm the guy you're reading about, I always wanted to meet you, so on and so forth. Just to get into some small talk. We talked for a little bit. He seemed interested in some things I had to say, and really just wanted to hear his viewpoints on certain things, and we had a cup of coffee together and a donut down at the cafeteria. That was the extent of our meeting. After that, I heard his lecture, and later, after I had moved to Las Vegas, when I decided to get back into the scientific field and sent out resumes to many other laboratories around the country, also any government research organizations, I did shoot a resume to Ed Teller, too. He called right after receiving it and said, I had directed your resume to someone in Nevada. It's a highly classified project, and they'll be requesting an interview. Within 20 minutes, the phone rang. That was the request for the interview. So obviously, Ed Teller gave it more than a nudge. It was more like a directive that this person will be interviewed for this particular job, and that's the bottom line. So yeah, he did get me into the program. While working at Los Alamos National Lab in 1982, the local newspaper did a front-page story on a jet car I had built. Coincidentally, Dr. Teller was giving a speech in Los Alamos that same day. We met and had a short chat about the jet car, and I later listened to his speech. I never met Dr. Teller again, but in 1988, when I decided to re-enter the scientific community, I sent him a resume and inquired about a job. Dr. Teller responded by telephone and told me that he was no longer active, but just functioned in a consultant capacity. He gave me the name of a contact to call in Las Vegas. I made that call, and things progressed from there until I got into the program. I never got a chance to ask Dr. Teller if he remembered me from Los Alamos, so I don't know if that was a factor or not.
If you use nuclear fuel, and not that possible, nuclear fuel is feasible, but whether these very great velocities are feasible, which are interesting if you ever want to get there but start, that is an important question. And that's about all I can say, all I have time to say. And what specifically the fuel will be, I think it might be fission, more probably fusion, and it won't come soon.
Is there any other nuclear reaction besides fission and fusion that you know of?
No.
Is there anything such?
Look, please, you try to explore the things about which I only will have to tell you it is not interesting, it's a waste of time.
Above plutonium or
uranium. It is, in my opinion, not interesting. I don't intend to answer it. If you ask me that question on camera, I will shut up. I will sit silent. You're not going to get an answer out of me on that.
Okay. And if I ask you on camera if you know Bob Lazar, can you just say no?
I will sit silently.
He was only hired by these Atomic Energy Commission people to do some back engineering because of his engineering expertise. others later, Huff and John Lear, went to where Bob Lazar lived in Los Alamos, and they got pictures of his house. They got a telephone book with his address at that house in it and his telephone number. They even found a picture in the newspaper of him showing his home-built jet car. So that made Edward Teller the liar in the whole deal. He knew Bob Lazar.
What else do you know about Ed Teller in connection with Area 51, Groom Lake, and S4?
Well, Edward Teller was the head of the Atomic Energy Commission and was therefore the overall head of all of the Groom Lake operations, S4 and Area 51, all of them. They had Edward Teller, for instance, one time, who was the head of all of the Atomic Energy Commission facilities, which included Area 51 and Los Alamos and all the big, most secret facilities this country has. He said he told them he didn't know anything about UFOs. At the same time, we know that a few years before that, in 1968, he held a conference in his center facilities there at Los Alamos for 18 people, a progress review conference, to find out why we hadn't solved the technical problems on an operational UFO that we had recovered. And one of the alien occupants of that UFO was sitting across the table from my friend Bill Uhouse, an engineer, a simulator engineer there, who was working with the alien on trying to bridge the technology between their technology and ours. And from 54 to 68, they hadn't succeeded in making any real significant progress. And this is what the meeting was all about. Why aren't we able to do this? And the alien indicated that their technology requires a certain amount of mental input that we have never learned to impart.
So maybe it has to do with a certain type of brainwave activity, and you have to be in a certain
brainwave pattern too that we
Right.
are not familiar with. And here's the same guy sitting at the head of the table with all of his scientists around there. Years later, is lecturing in Dallas for MUFON and says he doesn't know anything about UFOs.
And Ed Teller, isn't he also the one who Bob Lazar claimed hired him to work at Area 51 and S4?
On crashed UFOs.
Right. But he doesn't know a thing.
Said he didn't know anything about UFOs.
And was Edward Teller involved in the program as far back as the initial beginnings of Project Red Light?
He had to be. He was there during he took over after the atomic bomb project was finished and we began manufacturing bombs in quantity. He was still the head of the Atomic Energy Commission, had the most secure facilities in the whole United States. So that's why the crashed UFOs were taken to Atomic Energy Commission property, where they had super secret, secure facilities. The only other place that housed a lot of this stuff that was being recovered was the White Sands Missile Test Range, which was equally secure in the mountains behind the White Sands desert.